Good morning and welcome to News with a View, a Fat Cat production. That's Fat Cat Production, one word, cat spelt with a K. It will be up over here when I edit it. Hosted by me, John A. Costa. And this is episode 88, and if I didn't say it, it's June 26th. 2025. We are going live on YouTube right now. I do not have it going live to Facebook because I had a problem with that, and I'm going to work that out this evening. The news today, some interesting tidbits coming out. The Court of Appeals in District of Columbia putting on hold a decision that they made as being unconstitutional of President Trump's banning the Associated Press from the White House briefing room. So they're saying the restriction did not impede on the First Amendment for private speech and discussion, citing the need to preserve the independence of the president, and the judges emphasized that the White House retains discretion over who comes in it. They could ask any question they want of the president outside the White House. So there's no attack on the freedom of speech. That was baloney and malarkey. So the president has won that. Now, notably, both judges in the majority were appointed by Trump, but you could see how that all works in the scheme of politics. They got to be appointed by someone. They could have been appointed by Bush. They could have been appointed by Clinton. And a lot of these judges, and again, for the most part, and I do say for the most part, most of the time the judges they're good judges. There's just, you don't like their ruling, but doesn't make them not good judges. So that was a win for the Trump administration. And I'm sure AP will appeal this and it will go up the courts. And they're saying this report, I forget who I took it out of, but they said it adds to the complexity of the political atmosphere surrounding the ruling. No, it doesn't. Doesn't do anything to the political atmosphere. They're judges. They're appointed. They're going to be appointed by one president or another president. This is more of the fake news and the news where I say they take it and then they spin it their own way. If these were all if these were all Democratic appointed, and this report, and I think this came from MSNBC, would have said that, acting in accordance with the Constitution, blah, 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 the three judges, unanimously agreed that Trump can't do this. Where Fox would go, judges appointed by Democrats skew the Constitution. It's just what they do. It is what they do. And you must get over that. You must be smart enough. You must be intelligent enough. You must care enough to find out the facts. And look at how some of these judges have ruled. I have no problem with our judicial system, in the sense of the judges, I have no problems with our Supreme Court. None whatsoever. I think that the balance is, what it is. It was unfortunate that, for the Democrats that so many judges passed away under Republican rules, or quit. But that's the way it goes, folks. I'll go to another court event that's going to happen, and I think it might happen today. It could be extremely, extremely important. And there's going to be many a folk that's not happy with it. And you could see how some of the justices are already lining up and saying that, the judges are using the words of the Constitution as their meaning and not the spirit, where actually they're using the words, excuse me, not only the word, but the true meaning. Like this. Now, this just deals with the 14th Amendment. I have books on every amendment. And in it, the original meanings, what they were based on, why the founders of those constitutional amendments, what was their meaning behind going and doing that. And it's all there. It's all there. And it's not redigested. They're the actual letters from Congress persons of the time and their thoughts on what needs to be in it, the arguments on the chamber floor, all in there, and exactly what the meanings and the intent of that constitutional amendment, why it was done. So the Supreme Court does have the sway on it. They are the final rule until it's brought to them again, not under the same contents of argument, because that's been ruled upon. But if you came at it at a different angle to go, hey, they came at it this way, we're coming at it this way, and we can show that, the argument was not made correctly, or this is a new argument. No one thought about this. How about this? Look what it says. And, go that way. That was Roe v. Wade. Roe v. Wade, back then I had no idea. What was I, 20 years old? 16 years old? 18 years old, whatever I was. Well, I was older than that, but Roe v. Wade was terrible law. You start reading it as an adult, and you start seeing what they were hinging it on, and they hinged it on privacy. And guess what the Constitution does not protect? Your privacy. The U.S. Constitution does not protect it, does not go into it. It does, in a certain extent, the Fourth Amendment secures your rights of search and other things, but not your privacy. Not in that sense that it was Roe v. Wade. Do you know what protected your privacy? Second book. State rights. State rights where the U.S. Constitution does not take it into effect. States can have the rights to fix that problem if there is no amendment to the U.S. Constitution. And that's exactly what had happened. States created abortion bills or denied them or whatever, but those were the states. That's the way it should have been. And President Trump had said that altogether. I want to give power back to the states. In certain instances, this should not be the federal government telling you what to do. And guess what that is, folks? That's democracy working inside a republic. And the Democrats hate that. They can't stand that. All right. I go on now. The White House plans to limit classified information it shares with Congress on the attack on Iran. The Trump administration is planning to limit classified information it shares with Congress, and this is reported by ABC News. The move comes after classified initial intelligence assessments show the U.S. strikes ordered by President Donald Trump did not completely destroy the country's nuclear program, but likely set it back a few months, according to sources familiar with it. Well, the intel that was leaked out by whoever leaked it out, and whether or not it was correct or not, what Trump is saying that he feels that it was not leaked out by the Pentagon, it was leaked out by members of Congress. And those members of Congress, if this was classified information, and they did, out they go. Arrest them, strip them, charge them, and off the court and off to jail they go if they're guilty. These shenanigans of releasing it, and I said it yesterday, without sources. And let me tell you, people, if you're bold enough to go to the press with this and do it, be bold enough to stand up and go, this is it. I'm saying this is what they gave me. This is the report. They're lying to you. I'm telling you the truth. You can do that and then accept the consequences for it, because you know you're not allowed to release that. That is not being a whistleblower. You are not a whistleblower. It has nothing to do with that. Now, I don't know what Trump can really do that, because you have a Congressional Armed Services Committee and other people that their job is to look at this and report back to the whole body of Congress. And these people are the gatekeeper. So if we have a problem with the gatekeeper, and this is what I would say Trump is saying, then there's some major problems going on, and they need to be looked at and examined very carefully. A Pentagon official, and it could be a clerk, who knows? I don't know. I don't have the full story on it. And we probably will never know the full story on it. But that's different than members of Congress. Members of Congress are elected. They're sworn. The intelligence people at the Pentagon are hired, or they're military. If they're military, then that's a whole different avenue you go down. you could remember that President Biden let traitors go who exposed our people and killed hundreds of CIA operatives and assets. And then this person was allowed to get a sex change in jail, and then we had to let him go because he said he had problems in jail. Yeah, freaking Obama. All right. The same part of that story, Iran, Israel, and U.S. agree that the Islamic Republic nuclear sites were badly damaged. Now, Iran saying the sites were badly damaged just could be covered. You don't, hey, you don't have to come back and bomb them. Oh, look, oh, it's all rubble, and, you guys don't have to come back. I don't think we'll be using this for a while. The guys did a good job. In the meantime, it's not damaged to the point where it can't be reused. So I don't believe much of this stuff, and I said this in the earlier episodes, is get the information that you can get and then draw your conclusions, also using the fact that some of this information from these people have never been reliable. And that has to be put into your calculation on whether or not this is factual or this is not factual or believable or whatever. I don't believe anything coming out of Iran. Not a word. I don't believe anything a Democrat tells me. I could be standing in the rain, pouring rain, and he's telling that person Democrat would be telling me it's raining out, and I go, I don't believe you. That's how much I distrust the Democrats today. I distrust them. They have an agenda only to return to power. They have nothing. They are not going to help the ordinary person. They're going to help their 5% and the 12 million people they brought over in a year. The number's closer since Obama and Biden have been in office, somewhere in the 25 to 30 million illegals. And that's not counting documented people who are not illegals. They are here under a visa program or under some other authorized policy to allow them to stay. That is a policy, not an executive fake order. So, our nuclear installations have been badly damaged, that's for sure. Iran's foreign minister spokesman, Ismail Baghia, had stated. So he's saying, oh yeah, no, you don't have to come back again. They'll never be used again, or they're heavily damaged. And you have the left media sitting here telling us, it was nothing was done. It was all a hoax. America wasted, anything the left can do to attack Donald Trump, no matter, true or not true, and everything that comes out of them is not true. It is pure political rhetoric. coming from a news organization that should just be reporting the news, not making it up. So, my third thing today, James Carville, who, I'm forced to read this stuff, and no one goes after Carville, who called Jews money grabbers. The media still goes to this guy, a Democratic strategist. And they go, well, no, he's a former Democratic. Yeah, well, the Republicans don't want him because he's morally filthy. But the left likes going to him. But he came out today and said veteran strategist James Carville warned on Wednesday how Democratic Socialist Zohran Mamdani winning the New York City mayoral primary may be a burden for the Democratic Party. And what did I keep saying to you Democrats? I kept saying to you, the left is a problem for you. It might be all right in a certain fit in a certain area. New York City, Chicago. But all in all, I'm going to do it like this. That hurts my head. All in all, it hurts you on a national basis where Chicago is failing badly. And this guy wants to take $60 billion. Where are they getting $60 billion from New York City? He wants free buses. You can't raise the rent. A landlord can't raise the rent. Yet the city's taxes can go up, and the electric can go up, and the cost of maintaining that building can go up. And what is the socialist communist, and that's what he is, plan? And I'll tell you what the socialist communist plan is for this country, is to bankrupt free enterprise, where now the socialist communists have to step in and they go, well, we'll take over that building, and now it's ours, and we control everything. He wants government-controlled grocery stores in New York City. No free enterprise. Government-controlled. And here's the problem with government control of anything under socialists and communists, is that if you don't play ball with them, you're out, and you have no food, and probably have no job. This is the problem. This is the democratic democracy, free enterprise. You work hard, you achieve. These are the people who are against our democracy. And America better wake up to that fact. Your children have been brainwashed in the universities and schools to be anti-American. To be pro-communist is being a good American. This is what is going on in our schools. And I guarantee you, if the tide turned, if they went socialist communist, the first people that would be taken out and dealt with are the people that organized all these riots and everything. Next would be gays and LGBTQ who pollute our utopia. And if you don't think that that's true, you better look into a lot of these communist regimes. And you teachers who are getting these great salaries and stuff, all the union people, out. Because you know how to organize. We can't have that. Because, you might turn around and go, hey, these guys, they didn't. They will eliminate you. You're so stupid. You drank the Kool-Aid. The unions should be so behind Trump. They should not give the Democratic Party a penny through political action committees inside unions. They should not be giving the Democrats a dime. What have the Democrats done in the last 60 years for labor? Except erode it and cash the checks of the union people. That's basically what they've done. So, Carville, one of the most famous strategists in American politics, has been speaking about the Democratic Party's need to ditch far-left politics. And you know what the Democrats do? They go, yeah, we're going to ditch it. In public, behind the scenes over here. Oh, yeah, we're all for it. You cannot trust Democrats. It's as simple as that. And he says this is just another struggle for, and hurdle for the struggling Democrats. Well, Carville, you might have gotten that right to a point. But when you build the bottom of a boat with screens, and you don't say anything about it until the boat's sinking in the water to go, well, the screens. And you didn't say anything before the screens. You're the problem. You are the problem. The Democratic Party, as it stands today, is a cancer. And if you honestly think that they are the answer, you look at what they're doing in the cities and that they control. Tim Walz watched his city burn down, did nothing. New York City, businesses, robbed, gone, did nothing. Philadelphia is a joke. St. Louis has been a joke for the last 50 years, 60 years. Milwaukee. Atlanta, LA, where you have officials telling gangs to go in the street and assault ICE agents. A Los Angeles official, Cynthia Gonzalez, said that if gang members had any cojones, they'd be out in the streets protecting their streets. Protecting them from what? So if you protect it, that means you have to fight for it. That means you're telling them to go out there and attack ICE agents. Cynthia Gomez should be arrested for inciting. This is a huge problem in America. This is a huge problem all over. And it really has to stop. The Democrats are out of control. And they don't care what they do to try to regain control. They don't care. They just want control back. 2016, as I said before, we are going to give a ton of money to the GOP to go after states and change the color. And we're going to go after seats to paint them red. And in 2028, if the plan goes as it's going, Vance will be in charge. He will continue. He'll have his own path. It's not going to be Trump 2.0 or 3.0 or whatever. That's not going to happen. Vance will have his own path. But it will be on a road whose foundation was Donald Trump. And then what he does after that road and makes his own road, that's on him. Iran's supreme leader comes out of hiding and warns against further American attacks in his first statement since a ceasefire. Iran Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei on Thursday stated that his country had delivered a slap to America's face with its strike on an American base in Qatar and warned against any further U.S. attacks in his first public comments since a ceasefire was declared with Israel after 12 days of war. Now, it's interesting that 12 days. I want you to think of 12 days. All right? Khamenei spoke in a recorded video broadcast on Iranian state television. And that's been his first, I think, since June 19th. The 86-year-old looked and sounded more tired than he did only a few weeks ago, speaking in a hoarse voice and occasionally stumbling over his words. So now they're painting a picture of a Joe Biden. And maybe it's time for this guy to call it quits. So they're painting that picture. You could see what they're doing. And it's pretty funny and it's clever and I like it. I like that they're doing that. So it was a 10 minute speech filled with the typical warnings and threats towards the United States and Israel, and the slap in our face. Uh, so I think basically what he's doing is telling his people, hey, we struck back at these Americans and Jews, and they know we mean business. And when I think the regular Iranian people are going, yeah, I haven't seen one of our planes in the sky. Uh, I don't know. As I said before, the Persians are not Arabs. They are smart people. They are reasonable people. They are philosophers. They're thinkers. I think that most Iranians are seeing the handwriting on the wall. Uh, a lot of the students now are going, we've been promised everything. We don't have money. We don't have a real education system. We don't have food. There's no room for expansion because if I try to expand or do anything, uh, the mullahs come right down on me and says, no, you violated the Quran, and So I see an Iran that will be run by the military, and the military is not going to say you have to go to, you know, the mosque and scream every day. You can pray. You could do it, 5 times a day on your own over here. And the clergy can't tell us what to do as a nation. As a religious leader, they could go say what you want, but you can't influence the government. So, uh, is that a regime change? I would call it a regime change. And if Iran sat down and said, listen, we tried to build a bomb, we were thinking of doing it, and then we stopped. It just wasn't worth it. Our program is to sell uranium and, and plutonium because we see China developing these reactors and the United States developing reactors that are safer, more productive, cheaper to build. And you have, countries where you don't want this processing taking place because, accidents happen. But we feel very confident that we can supply you with high grade and keep your lights going, and instead of buying oil from us, you buy plutonium from us. Now, back in the day, those were called breeder reactors. And they were very complex, and, it's tricky business. If they were to do it under civilian control, an observation from the United Nations verifiable, and you make 50 pounds of it, you sold 50 pounds of it, and 50 pounds of it got to people that, a Great Britain, France, it's not going to some guy in a cave somewhere. It's not going to go to North Korea. So you can do it, and also you can't get it past a certain percentage point of purity. And weapons grade plutonium has to be like a 90% pure, and you constantly have to keep enriching it, or it loses its potential to be used as a nuclear weapon. It's still deadly as can be, but it won't conduct uh, uh, the fission. So it will burn, it will do everything, but you're not going to get this massive explosion. All right, so Iran has slapped us in the face and told us a thing or two. We showed you. All right, and there was an article, and it's a sideways. I call it sideways logic. Why Trump's stakes on Iran will leave North Korea more determined than ever to keep its nukes. Now, just with that headline, was North Korea ever going to give up their nukes? Did they ever once say they would give up their nukes? No. Because they know that's all they got. And they got it because President Bill Clinton was talked out of attacking North Korea when they started this nuclear program in spite of the fact that they agreed not to for aid through the United Nations, through the United States, through Europe, through everyone. And they started building a breeder reactor. And Trump and Clinton wanted to attack it. Not attack Iran military, but wanted their ability to make this go away. And he was stopped. And he was real close to just going, make it happen. The problem at the time was if we were going to go and fly a mission like that, and surgically take it out, we would expose our assets of being able to go into Russia, to China, anywhere we want, unseen. The Chinese government, the Russian government would have worked with North Korea to look at data from those invisible flights and possibly come up with a means to say, hey, you picked it up over here for a few seconds and then it disappeared and you didn't know what you were looking at, but this was it and this was this, and they could start figuring stuff out. We also didn't want people to know we had devices that could blow up bunkers. Slice through the ground where, you were 100 feet underground and you thought you were safe. And, this bomb didn't go off at, 10 feet, 20 feet, 30 feet. It went off at 100 feet. And you're going to feel that. So as American B-2 bombers streaked over Iran, targeting facilities and tied to the nuclear ambitions of Iran, policymakers and analysts in East Asia were already grappling with the critical question: what signal does this send to North Korea, a country whose nuclear arsenal is far more advanced than Iran's? Well, for starters, this is why we're stopping Iran, so we don't have two of these freaking maniacs out there. So, thank you, Israel. Thank you, Donald Trump. And they said experts warn Washington military actions may harden Pyongyang's resolve to accelerate its weapon programs and deepen cooperations with Russia. Yeah, that's already happened under Biden. That's gone. Nothing we can do. Almost knocked my little audio switcher off here. In my ranting, arm flailing. So that's already done. You're not going to stop North Korea from its nuclear program. Now, inside North Korea, they might stop him if you sanction them and starve them into a corner where his generals and go, hey, we're gonna lose everything. We're gonna lose everything, and yeah, we don't want to do that. But we want an independent country. We want this, but Kimmy, I think you went a little bit too far. You're gonna have. Hey, look at this can of caviar we got you. Why don't you taste it? It's delicious. And that's how they'll get rid of Kim. And then the military will take over. And they'll be, listen, we can unleash this, we could do this. But we want peace. We want the same assurances you gave Cuba. And we want to be friendly with the countries all around us, but we want to be independent. We do not want to be attacked. We don't want to have to build all these weapon trees. We don't want to do it. We want to feed our people. We want to sell things. We want prosperity. That is the key. And dear leader must meet with an accident. That takes his whole family. So, the idea that this is strengthening North Korea's resolve, I would say yeah. But that was a resolve that was never going to be taken away. He was never going to agree to getting rid of his nukes. He would never, ever, ever agree to that. So this was meaningless. That article is meaningless on, his resolve. This will make his resolve even more. His resolve was always solid. His resolve was always there. Now the military, different, again, you loyal 10,000, generals I've made. Take your gun and run into over there, and, and they're looking like one another, and they're going, who shoots them first? It was just like the troops they sent to the Ukraine. And the Ukrainians mowed them down. So we had to send 6,000 more. What do you think's going to happen to them? You'll get the military, and you'll get Kim, who goes, oh, you failed me in the military. You did this, and they'll all get together. Hey, before this meeting, none of us are walking out of there. You understand that? So we got to get our loyal people together so when they go to take us outside to shoot us, they shoot those people, and then, Kim and his family have a horrible, horrible accident. But unless you want to walk in there and you're fine with taking a bullet in your head and your family being dragged out and the same thing happens to them, you go through that door. I'm going to go to my troops and say, hey, listen, I protected you guys. We did this, and now you're all going to be shot. Because Kim didn't like me. And you could shoot me here. Kim's still going to come over here and shoot you. So here's the play of the day. We're going to get rid of Kim. And get rid of his family. And then we're going to open up food things, and we're going to feed us and the people. And we're going to tell the rest of the world, don't screw with us. And then when things calm down, we talk. That's the only way to deal with Kim. All right. So, oh, my printer's going bad. Look at this. Let's check this last page. The other thing coming up in the courts today, and it could come today, U.S. Supreme Court ending term with birthright, porn, and voting rights. So they're winding down for the summer break, and there are still cases to be decided. The court is scheduled to issue opinions on Thursday, and these are major outstanding cases: birthright, citizenship. This has been one of Trump's, and there have been other people. This is just not Trump doing this. Trump would never go down this road with birthrights unless he had support elsewhere. And a legal leg to stand on. And again, the original meaning of the 14th Amendment by Randy Barnett and Evan D. Bernick. It's a great, great book to read. It is worse than watching paint dry because they use terms in there that aren't used anymore, and they use a lot of law quotes that you don't know, and now you got to look up, and all of a sudden, you got 5 books open. And I try not to go to Google for it because I don't believe Google. I want to see an old-timey book. I want to see books that they looked at, and it's all in there, how they reference their footnotes and all this legal mumbo jumbo. So it's real interesting. Birthrights. Wow. Okay. And that is, to me, one of the most highest of Trump's wish lists. And I said, I came out when he came out with what he said, and after reading, I said he stands a good shot at it. And people, even my strongest supporters, said, no, we don't think he'll get that. And I'm like, be prepared. Now, again, I believe in the Supreme Court. So whatever the justices say, I might go, hey, that's a lousy ruling. But you know what? That's their lousy ruling. And that's the ruling that we have to live under. And I want the Democrats to live under those same laws, which they use our laws as if the laws are in a cafeteria and they can pick and choose which ones they want to obey. The Democrats are not about democracy. If they were about democracy inside a republic, they would not have sanctuary cities. They would obey our immigration laws. They wouldn't come up with DEI when the Supreme Court said affirmative action is discriminatory. So they just painted over affirmative action and wrote DEI. And said, well, we changed the word, so it's not affirmative action. A rose by any other name is still a rose. The Democrats are not about democracy. Not. All right. The other question before the Supreme Court is whether a single district court can freeze an executive branch move with a universal injunction. No, they can't do that. It's interesting because the only way you can get around that is if you file a class action lawsuit. But the Trump administration is asking the Supreme Court to restrict the application of district court's injunction solely to the parties who brought the case and the district where the judges preside. So you could bring the case, Chicago could bring the case and use a district judge inside, federal judge inside Chicago's, Illinois, or, in that area. But that doesn't automatically mean that in Denver that can happen. That affects Denver. That's only there. It's extremely complicated. But the bottom line will be, can a district judge go after the executive branch? And the answer is they cannot. They could take it and say, no, this has to go through the steps all the way up. And then you can do it. But a district judge somewhere just can't go, no, we're stopping them. The other one that's on the agenda, porn site age verification. The case Free Speech Coalition versus Paxton involves a Texas law requiring pornographic websites to verify visitors' age, part of a growing effort to limit access by minors to online sexual content. Texas is one of nearly 20 states to institute such a requirement. They have that in South Carolina, which critics argue violates First Amendment free speech rights. The district court sided with the challenge by an adult entertainment industry grade group, the Free Speech Coalition, saying the law restricted access by adults to constitutionally protected content. Now, that's an interesting quote there, because saying the law restricted access by adults constitutionally protected content. Well, there is a mechanism inside all those sites that ask you to verify you're an adult. So if you're an adult and you are exercising your free speech, you just have to fill out certain information. Now, that information, that I can understand, what, I've never looked at them. I don't know what questions they ask. I might today go in there and just look and peek, and I'll do that through incognito or something. And they might not even let me do it through that, but there's other ways to do it. To see what information they're asking. They're asking for a driver's license. I don't want to give my driver's license. I don't know who's taking that information. Are they asking for a credit card? I'm not going to give them a credit card. You know, how are they asking me to verify my age? That is safe and legitimate, and you know, but I don't think I didn't hear the whole argument on this. But the Free Speech Coalition saying the law restricted access by adults to constitutionally protected content. That's not true. The content is available if you're an adult. We're asking you to prove you're an adult. If you can't prove or are unwilling to prove your age, you can't come on the site. My wife got asked for a driver's license buying a lotto ticket in South Carolina. I won't say her age, 72. But is that not ridiculous? I can't go in and buy a bottle of liquor here without showing my driver's license. So the idea of age verification, they're not limiting my right to free speech, or they're not limiting my right to access. Pornographic material is protected by the Constitution, in a sense. The forefathers did not put into the Constitution, you know, nude pictures. But in reality, they did. Because if you looked at any of the artwork, you know, you had nude women, you had, you know, men, you had sculptures that were up. And it was allowed. It was allowed. Now, what Constitution does that fall under? And I would say the Ninth Amendment. That's what I thought it was. And the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage other rights retained by the people. So the Ninth Amendment being used as a strainer of your rights, saying that just because it's not mentioned in here doesn't mean you can't tie it into one of the other rights. And in this case, they're saying free speech. It's a First Amendment. And I'm not certain that they're going to win that one. I'm not certain. And again, you can't buy certain things without showing ID. But you can go to a site and buy pornographic material and have it sent to you. But you got to pay in a credit card, so they're going to be pretty certain that you're an adult. So you verify innocence. This is one of the problems. You get into a circle, and you just keep going in a circle. This is one of them. Now you could either go, hey, freedom of speech is freedom of speech, and accessing this for me, I'm an adult. I know I'm an adult. And there are restrictions an adult can put on a computer to stop you from going to these sites. These sites have to be coded in such a manner that they show up as an adult site. And you just can't, if you ban your computer from going on it, your kid can't get on it. You can't stop a child from grabbing an adult's pack of cigarettes at someone's house and smoking. But you can, if you smoke at home, you could take your cigarettes with you and carry them with you, lock them up, put them away where your kids can't get at them. But it doesn't mean your kids will never be exposed to it. You could go to someone's house and they have Playboy magazines around it, and there's kids in that house, and you go, ooh, all right, as an adult, I'm going to say, yeah, you can't go over Billy's house, but Billy's can come over here, So, would someone have the claim to say, well, you're not letting Billy come over the house because I have pornographic material around? Would that constitute a restrictions of little Jimmy's rights to go over to Billy's house? I'd say not, but you don't know today. You don't know today. I think if you're an adult and you want to look at pornographic material, have at it. But I think a site could have the right to say, I want to know you're over 18. Now, they used to say, click if you're over 18. Click on it, and in you went. And there, people against pornography are saying, no, that's, hey, anyone could click it to say yeah. Well, then put things on your computer that stop your child from doing that. You could put them on these things. You could limit them. It's all there. It's all possible. It can be done. So, you know what? Stop the nonsense. Stop the nonsense. All right, with that, I'm finishing up for today. You know what I always say. Give to a charity. Charity does begin at home, but if you can afford it and it doesn't hurt you, give to a charity. If you don't want to give to a charity, think about giving food to a food bank. You go shopping twice a week, buy 2 extra cans. Something's on there, 4 for $5, 5 for $5. Get it. Corn, beans, hot dog sausages, anything. Canned ham. You got old furniture, give that to a church. There's many ways to help people. Many, many ways to help people. But the first start is you got to give. You got to be there. So give to a charity that you pick out. Don't have a charity come to you. Don't become a victim helping a victim. A lot of those charities are frauds out there. GoFundMe pages and things like that. I mean, who knows? I don't know who those people are. But I do know my church, and I do know the Red Cross, and I do United Way, and I do know these groups. Yes, money goes this way and money goes that way, but the money does get to the people. Say a prayer. Prayer works. And again, Danielle Poole, Chris Rowan, I'll talk to you this evening. Everyone, have a safe day. I probably will do a show later on tonight because I said I'm going to be playing with the live, and I'll be recording and doing stuff, so you could see me pop up unannounced, and someone would only find me if they would say, who's doing something live right now? All right, with that, I'm going to fade to black and see what happens with YouTube.